friend.
Hello.
Welcome to episode 5 of bOrgCast Discovery coverage, covering episode 5. Yes. We done it.
Oh dear.
Yes, covering Choose Your Pain.
Warning, Klingon tractor beam engaged.
Captain Lorca was captured.
We will find him.
Where are we?
A Klingon prison vessel.
Prepare to jump.
I don't know how much more the creature can sustain.
I gave you an order.
You seek glory. But glory must be earned through sacrifice.
Stick with me. I'm a survivor, just like you.
You're listening to a Geek Planet Online community podcast. For more free entertainment, including podcasts and videos, visit us at geekplanetonline.com.
It starts with a dream sequence, which is stunningly original, isn't it? Never mind. I guess, these cliches are there to be used, aren't they? And then we got a scene with a bunch of admirals not bawling Lorca out quite, but he's clearly not having any of that. But it's normally you'd say, these are badmirals, but of course when you've got a bad captain, it's kind of hard to say, really, isn't it?
I really like that scene because they're telling him to rein it in, which is sensible.
Mm-hmm.
I know we were given a name, but I can't remember what it was. The woman who says also, I'm your friend.
Yeah,
I like her.
Yeah, no, she seems okay. So
yeah.
Yes, it's like Bizarro World here. The admirals are good and the captains are bad.
Yeah, it is a bit, but it kind of makes sense in a way because they're going to be in charge of like the ethos of Starfleet while it's kind of a new thing, if you see what I mean. And the captains, they probably are beginning to realise that they've bitten off more they can chew, giving him a captain's rank, I think.
Possibly. Although, on the other hand, they are talking about hunting down more tardigrades in a very ruthless and horrible manner, so it's not like they're completely good in this, are they?
No, but then I suppose that's supposed to be the desperation of war, though, isn't it?
I guess so, and you could use that defence for him as well. Not that it stands up, but...
No, because he's got all sorts of weird shit in his room, and jars and crap.
Yes, quite. We already know he's a bad one. So. Yeah. And we get some needless eye trauma.
Oh, I hated that! It was just... Oh, no!
Really, really nasty. And that describes quite a bit of this story, it has to be. There's quite a bit of seemingly needless violence, which just seems completely out of character for Trek. And we also get an F-bomb dropped as well. It's like, so much for this being a family show then.
Yeah, but it isn't, though, necessarily. I mean, that's one of the problems with Netflix, is they don't really give you ratings in the same way.
But it's Star Trek. Star Trek has always been a family show.
Well, there's stuff that goes on in Deep Space Nine that is not family friendly.
But it still went out at tea time, and it was never any in-your-face violence or in-your-face swearing.
What rating were the Hoobly What's It movies?
The original series movies? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, man. Abrams.
They were, I think they were 12s at most, and there was nothing in there that was particularly violent.
Because I think you're allowed to these days drop the F-bomb once.
Once you are, and maybe that's their use of it. Yeah,
I think for me, I'm pegging this as a rule as a 12.
Well, that violence didn't seem to me to be 12.
Yeah, but you know what it is? Kermaid's covered this, doesn't he? If you can't see, there's something to do with the blood and all the rest of it.
Normally, if you can't see any blood, you get away with an awful lot. So you get people stabbed and all sorts in the Marvel films, but you never see any blood. Here, you clearly see blood. People actually get impact trauma injuries. Visually, you can see it. And I'm sort of there going, okay, I'm glad our kids are a bit older now, because I certainly couldn't have shown this to them a few years back. Which, again, is a shame, because Trek was always a family show. It's like Doctor Who. It's like you start introducing violence into Doctor Who, and it's like, it's not Doctor Who anymore.
Oh, a bit like, is it Deadly Assassin with the drowning?
Yes, exactly. I mean, that was probably the closest it came, arguably, and some of the Colin Baker stuff's a bit icky as well. So. And as soon as that starts happening, people start saying, this isn't Doctor Who, and it gets cancelled. No, actually, that was completely different reasons. But let's not get lost in that.
I think in a way I see what you're saying, but I also think we are in a very different era of telly now. And I think that the number of genuine family shows these days, the way that people consume television is actually very small.
So no, people don't sort of sit in front of the telly and watch it, you mean? But
as a family.
But the problem with Netflix is you don't get a certificate. So like, if up till now we've been watching 12 films before the kids see them generally, except for the Marvel ones, which have always been, we know we're in safe ground with those. But other 12 films, we'd see it first before showing it to the kids. And they've just got to the age now where actually we're starting to do that with 15s as well, that they're coming close. So there are certain 15s that they'll be okay with and other ones that won't be, and you've got to see it first. So this means you've got to sit down and watch this on Netflix before you then show it with your kids, which seems a shame, really. Cause
I don't think we do with ours because they're 12 and 14.
No, possibly not.
But if they were younger, I would be agreeing with you on that point.
And they have been watching Trek with us for years. That's the point I'm making.
But
they couldn't have watched this a few years back with us.
No, we would have to turn around and say, no, sorry.
So I think it's a damn shame because it's one of the things that set Trek aside, and now it's just being like everything else.
Well, you say it set Trek aside, but when the original series was out, you had loads of shows that were family shows like Buck Rogers and Battlestar Galactica. I mean, we're talking the original ones. They're all family shows, but the reboot Battlestar was 12 in the main.
Yeah, this is true.
And this is a reboot.
And again, I mean, some of the stuff in Battlestar was beyond the 12.
I think some of it might have been a 15.
Yeah.
And this is basically a reboot.
But that's different, isn't it? Because like Battlestar Galactica had one season, not counting the dire 1980 thing. So they were pretty much taking a very dead franchise and breathing some life into it. Whereas Trek's not been dead at any point. I mean, it's all right. It's come close. It's had the Grim Reaper hovering over it at various points, Insurrection. But
it was considered dead when Abrams took over, and this is tying into the Abrams universe.
No, it's not.
It's not tying into the Prime universe. It might tell you it is, but that's bollocks. It's tying into the Abrams universe.
No, it's not. This has nothing to do with the Abrams universe for legal reasons.
No, in terms of how it looks.
Oh yeah, I mean they borrowed
the feel of it,
look is something
and where it's aimed.
Look is something completely different, but where it's aimed, I don't know. I mean, again, there was nothing in the Abrams films like this.
But they were 12s though, weren't they?
I'm not sure they were. I'll have to check.
But in terms of the market they're aimed at, that's where
I don't. This is definitely not. I mean, I've not seen the second one, but I've only seen the first and the third ones, and they were far more family friendly than this stuff is. Really, seriously, this stuff is sort of bordering. You know, this is your upper 12, bordering 15, whereas the Abrams stuff was definitely the lower 12.
Okay, I've only seen the first one. But that's where, and you know, it's a Netflix show, so you've got to, you know, I wouldn't be sitting our kids down and watching Luke Cage with them.
No, definitely not. But it's
or
not,
Daredevil.
But again,
so that's the market I think they're at.
Well, yeah, but those were actually marketed as something that was grimmer than the movie Marvel universe. That was kind of their selling point, if you like.
But this was supposed to be grimmer, wasn't it?
I don't know. If it was, it never announced that, did it? I mean, the trailers were all going on the wonder and the awe stuff, weren't they? Really. There wasn't certainly wasn't any particular violence.
Yeah, but we were told that weren't we, that it involved war? Maybe we weren't.
Yeah, we knew it was going to be the Klingon War, but they've done war in the past and not been as brutal as this.
No, although it'd be interesting to know, you know, when we get full on into later Deep Space Nine, whether we're feeling the same way. Because I seem to remember some pretty horrific stuff in that, to be honest. And we've seen some fairly horrific stuff in that one where Jake was trapped in a cave. And he ended up having to help out, and then he wanted to run away, and he wrote a story.
No, there wasn't really anything horrific in that. No, you didn't see anything.
You saw some pretty bad injuries. There were some properly dead people.
There were, but I mean, I suppose there's a difference between seeing somebody that's injured and somebody actually receiving those injuries at the time. But anyway.
And what about, sorry, I'm terrible at names. Picard being tortured.
Again, there was no blood or anything. That was all done fairly antiseptically, wasn't it?
But you could see the impact on him, though, couldn't you?
Psychologically, yes, but not...
And what about the whole thing going in the eye with the Borg in Best of Both Worlds Part 1?
It doesn't. That you're thinking of First Contact is the one where you get the drill coming up to his eye and it doesn't go in. It comes damn close, but doesn't go in. If they made First Contact now using this sort of standard, yes, the drill had gone right in and you'd seen blood going...
Yeah.
Anyway, we get to see a D7 that clearly isn't a D7, so why are they calling it a D7?
Well, see, this is where I go with the Andy theory. They reset the universe at First Contact, so you can't get it to nothing.
Well, that affects the Federation. It doesn't affect the Klingons, but oh dear. I mean, basically the only way you can live with this now is to say it's a parallel universe, and I know how you feel about those.
Yeah, I just think I'm just not thinking of it in the same way. I'm trying not to really think of it as the Trek that I know because it's too different. In the same way as...
So why call it Trek? Why not just do your own sci-fi series?
But then you could say the same with Battlestar Galactica. For me, this is a reboot. This is Battlestar Galactica. The new stuff is really good. I really like it. But it's not exactly similar to the old.
No, it's I mean, connective tissue, but it's very vague.
And that's my feeling with this. This is a reboot, right? There is connective tissue, but it's vague. That's how I'm approaching this series, is like Battlestar. So there's going to be some things that if it wasn't there, you just couldn't call it that. I don't know, if they remade Battlestar Galactica and didn't have any Cylons in it, for example, then I would be like, no. But there's enough that I think you can go...
even with BSG, if they showed an older thing, like the older Raiders, the Colonial Vipers, sorry, it was the same design they used in the TV series. They didn't radically... The new Vipers were clearly a later development. I mean, they did the clever thing of setting their series before the other one, even though, again, it's really parallel, isn't it? Because there's like the stuff, it's like the colonies get invaded again. It's like, well, clearly we're dealing with a reboot here, fair enough. But actually, they were far more referential to the source material in that.
You mean they set it after?
Yes.
You said before.
Sorry, I meant to say after, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that for me is one of the problems. Is the prequel issue? If you just think of it as a reboot and forget the idea that it's a prequel to anything other than possibly the JJ stuff, which I can see it tying into in terms of look. I can't comment more than that because it's been too long since I've seen the 2009 film and I've only seen that twice.
But the only reason it's because of look is because they've, rather than recreate the old looks. And be criticised for it looking dated, they've gone with, if we were doing this now, how would we do it? Their problem being that it's supposed to be set in the past as far as we're concerned.
Yeah, but as I said, if that's what I think of it, is if it's a prequel to anything, it's the JJ universe. But I'm thinking of it really as a reboot. And when I take that approach, when I take the BSG approach, I'm able to enjoy it a lot more.
Although, of course, if it is a parallel universe, we then find out that it has the same heroes, because that list of famous captains is exactly the same, which is there just to please fans, but at the same time it's like, well, if you can get that right, but never mind. So Lorca gets captured by the D7, and they're worried about the Klingons getting hold of Discovery, so what do? They send the Discovery out to get Lorca, which they have to, I guess, because it's only the Discovery that can jump into behind enemy lines, but it does seem like at one moment they're saying, oh no, we can't risk the ship, and the next minute, we're risking it to save this captain guy.
Yeah, because they can't risk the
knowledge
falling into enemy
arguably.
hands.
Yeah. Harry Mudd. How do we feel about Harry Mudd?
Well, he's a sleazeball.
Yeah, but that's quite in keeping with the original Harry Mudd.
Otherwise, I generally agree with him. The Federation have bought it all of themselves.
Well, yeah, that was fascinating, wasn't it?
With the To Boldly Go stuff.
Yeah.
And
Federation arrogance is something that has run throughout Star Trek, actually, interestingly.
All the way through. And
so that felt like Trek for all the wrong reasons, really. But
that was like, whoa, that has needed saying.
Exactly.
And the only person who's come close to saying it is Sisko, and he still went fucking exploring the Gamma Quadrant when he'd been asked not to, and he doesn't fucking belong to him.
More of that in the next bOrgCast, folks.
Oh.
As in the next Deep Space Nine one, anyway.
But no, I mean, I'm like, I'm with Harry Mudd on that one.
I thought he was reasonably in keeping with the original Harry Mudd without being ridiculously so, because the original Harry Mudd was just embarrassingly 60s and I mean, this guy also has a sexy side to him as well, clearly, so he kind of fits in. He's slightly more grim and gritty, but I can cope with a slightly more grim and gritty Harry Mudd, I think. So yeah, I thought he was quite good, actually. It was one of the things I was worried about. I mean, clearly he's not being used for broad comedy like the previous Harry Mudd was, but then again, God, that stuff is really bad when you revisit the original Mudd episode. It is so shockingly sexist.
But I really liked him. I thought he was well acted as well.
Yeah, no, he was okay. It's okay. A fine beard as well.
Yes.
Then we have a bit more about how the spore system works, and it's all about a plant that's got roots throughout the universe or something. Okay.
On the one hand, that was shonky.
Yes.
But on the other hand, I love the three of them geeking out over the science. I loved the scene and the acting, even though I just can't get on board with this mushroom bollocks.
I know. I just wish it was something else. I love the fact that, you're right, we have a sort of freeway geeking, science geeking.
Geek out!
Freak out! You freak, say she, freak out!
Very good. But yeah, it's a shame they're geeking about something so absolutely ridiculous. But never mind. But we do, yes, we get the F-bomb. Never mind.
Yeah, but I love that though. She goes, it's so fucking cool. And then she's like, and then he's like, you're right. This is fucking cool.
Again, it just, because you don't generally get it in Trek, it feels less Trek as a result. There's things that they do that sort of slap fans in the face at times.
No, but like I said, think of it as a reboot. It won't bother you. Well, it doesn't bother me anyway. There are things that do.
The problem is, as soon as I accept a reboot, I'm just going to give in because I don't like reboots.
But you like BSG. So
I know, but I didn't. But that worked because I wasn't much of a fan of the original series.
I loved the original series.
Well, I never that much, to be honest.
Warts and all, but I loved it.
No, they weren't taking something that was absolutely beloved to the core of my being and saying, we said. It's like, no, you can't do that.
But that's why people originally objected to the Battlestar.
Oh, I know. Don't get me wrong.
Until they watched it, and
I sort of sat. I literally sat there on the sidelines, going, "You're getting that upset about that program? Because that program was really naff."
Okay. And now shoes on the other.
Shoes are on the other foot. Yes, quite possibly.
See, I didn't grow up with Star Trek as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I discovered it quite by accident, really, in my mid to late teens.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I grew up with Battlestar Galactica. And I wanted to have Apollo, and my sister wanted to have Starbuck. And we used to talk about going on dates together as a double date and doing... Yeah.
Okay. Can we move on swiftly, please? Another thing that's clearly changed in this reboot is Klingon anatomy, apparently, because apparently humans don't have the right number of organs for them anymore.
Fnar.
Well, yes. Worrying, really, isn't it?
Well, you say that. I'm not sure that's necessarily true as much as Lorca's snark.
I don't know. Yes, I mean, he was in his element, wasn't he, in that prison?
Yeah.
As we said, anywhere grim, dark and dirty, and he thrives, apparently, so
yeah.
He looks far more comfortable and at home there than he does on the bridge of a Starfleet vessel, but there we are.
But maybe he's like one of those people... You get people like that. Like you get people who they're only happy when they're complaining. Maybe he's only happy when he's being tortured and needs to escape.
Maybe. We get a little bit of an insight to his backstory, and obviously something went horribly wrong.
He blew up his entire bloody crew.
Yes, as you do. And they gave him another captaincy. How did that work out again?
They were fucking desperate, I think, is the answer to that one.
Yeah. And then you've got old Doug Buggers then being all mercenary and horrible, and it's like, oh, that's nice then. So you only get to captain vessels if you're horrible in this series, apparently. Because he was all right before, but now he's suddenly, to hell with the tardigrade. Let's just kill it in the process of trying to rescue our captain. It's like nobody in a gold uniform has a moral backbone in this series. It's horrendous. Hey ho. And also on the complaint side, those Klingon raider things. I didn't
like them.
Which were more like something out of Lex, to be honest.
They look like see-through fish.
Yeah, I was thinking more insect things. Yeah, it was a dragonfly. I mean, really very Lex-like. I mean, far more shiny and proficiently rendered, of course, than anything in Lex. But nevertheless, those designs came straight out of the Lex design.
No, they were just... No, I didn't like them.
Never mind. But it's a good resolution to the story, I think, with your engineer blokey injecting himself with the DNA. That's quite nice.
Yes.
And so he starts growing on you as a result. Till now he'd been a bit of an arsehole, but he doesn't seem to be a complete arsehole, which is good.
He says that he's an a-hole, but he's not, and I'm quoting him here, 100% a dick.
Do you believe him?
Well, I don't know that I believe anyone's 100% a dick, ma'am.
But I like the scene with Burnham and Saru as well, where he recognises that basically he didn't get the training he should have done as the first officer. Mm-hmm. That's why he's angry with her. And so now he's like, he knows that there are mistakes that he has made, but going forward he's more sort of confident and will act different. And that's why at the end... And
of course he does make the right decision in
the end,
knowing
like,
Lorca's on that ship, so that's good.
We think...
And drawing on his thing from his species being all about a sense of survival as well. So that was a nice touch.
I liked that, and he's like, no, do this, do that, and also he, in that moment, to me, he came across as less hesitant compared to before, and the crew all went with it, and he was right.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether, in a way, that's given him the confidence to then go along and say, look, I understand this tardigrade might be sentient, free it. Just make it whatever you've got to do. We can't do this anymore, which I like. And it doesn't necessarily mean he would have made decisions differently, because I still think he felt the most important thing, particularly having lost a captain and having been scarred by it. I still think he would have done everything he could to rescue his captain, but he's like...
The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther.
Which I liked. And I liked that there was kind of like, there was a making up between the two of them. And I love the scene with the toothbrushes.
Yeah, well, here's something we've not seen before. Starfleet toothbrushes. Cool. Quite know where we've never seen them before, but we haven't. But here they are, and how wonderful! I mean, this is what made the episode for me. Was a perfectly natural gay couple just having a chat, cleaning their teeth together, and and our dear daughter missing the point entirely. Oh, nice bromance.
No.
It's a bit more than that, love.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're cleaning your teeth together, it's a bit more. And then you explain that we don't clean our teeth together because I make a horrible mess when I clean my teeth.
You do.
Yeah. Toothpaste all over the place.
Yes. Running down your beard.
Yes, like oil on the beard of Aaron or something. Although it doesn't quite work quite so romantically if it's toothpaste. There we are.
No, toothpaste on the beard of Peter.
Yes.
Doesn't work, does it?
Globbing everywhere.
Yes.
Anyway, on that
No!
no. All in all, a very mixed bag episode.
No, I really liked it.
Yeah, right.
You think it's a mixed bag.
That's why I was saying it, you.
But you were looking at me as though I should automatically agree with you. I realise our listeners can't pick this up because it's, a sight thing. But you're looking at me as though I must clearly agree with you, and I don't.
Well, that was not my intention, darling.
Fine.
Because I was just saying how I felt about it.
Right, so you think it was a mixed bag.
Yes.
I really enjoyed it. The one bit that annoyed me, but it'll be interesting to see what this series does with Klingons, is the whole choose your pain doesn't fit with a species that has honour at its heart. So unless they're going to do something very, very different with these Klingons, for me that jarred.
Yeah, they just stop baddies. They don't feel like Klingons, do they? They're just stop baddies at the moment.
Yeah, that is one of my problems with it, in the same way as if the reboot of Battlestar had made this... And I know the Cylons looked different, but if they made them be different, like radically different in some way that wasn't Cylon anymore, that would bother me. Does that make sense?
Well, in some ways they did, because obviously you had and we're going to end up talking about BSG for ages now, but it wasn't just the Cylons as we knew them, but also the
but they explained that though, and they expanded it. That's why I said I'm waiting to see what happens. Are they going to explain this? Or are we just going to be left with, as you said, baddies that could be anything, because they don't look like Klingons.
Nope.
And
they don't fly ships that look like Klingons.
They don't fly Klingon ships.
And they don't behave like Klingons.
And they don't have honour. So, that's... Yeah.
Yeah. But let's find out what other people thought. And we've heard from Wayne.
And he writes, I started out feeling ambivalent towards this episode. I've really enjoyed Disco so far, but I do prefer my Star Trek to be less grimdark. However, as the episode went on, I got more into it. I totally sided with Saru. I don't know if I was supposed to, but much as I can understand Burnham and Stamets' empathy for Ripper, Saru had a captain to rescue and a crew that he was directly responsible for, so I believe he made the right decisions under the circumstances, and it was nice to see him put in that position. I'm still liking Lorca. That is, he's an unlikable character, but he's such a badass and scary bugger, it's hard not to be entertained by him. It doesn't hurt that I have a lot of time for Jason Isaacs too. So do we. Hello to Jason Isaacs. He says, I'm glad that Ripper's storyline got wrapped up in this episode, and I'm fascinated by the Dune-like idea of a sapient. I do believe they meant sapient and not sentient. Oh, bloody hell, what's the difference? Okay. Navigator, plugged into the drive. Oh, sentient is self-aware, sapient is intelligent, possibly? So a dog is sapient, not sentient?
Well, ours isn't very intelligent either, but never mind.
Oh, I don't know. I'm going to be Googling this afterwards. Anyway.
I think the difference with Dune is, one the Navigators, they were originally human, but they've been horribly mutated by their use of the spice over the years. So it ended up looking really alien, whereas this has obviously always been like this, I think. But anyway, carry on.
I don't know. Anyway.
Space is life.
Whatever, Navigator, plugged into the drive. I'm not sure why they need to stab the Navigator with big spikes, but then they have mushrooms with roots that spread through subspace out into infinity, so what the heck?
Yeah, quite.
Stamets' laugh at the end once he recovers was pretty infectious, and it had me giggling too. We went almost straight into the intimate scene with him and the Doctor at the end, and with both those combined, Stamets seems a lot lighter at the end of this episode.
Oh,
yes, I agree.
By a country mile, yes. He's suddenly gone from irritating idiot to, he's actually quite nice, isn't he?
And Wade says, also, I thought for one moment we were going to get Trek's first gay kiss, but I guess we have to wait for that just a little longer.
I guess we might. Proper one, anyway. Yeah.
Oh yes, there were Klingons too, but they seem pretty superfluous to this episode, providing a background threat and not a lot else. Not sure how the Klingon captain managed to rape the new guy. I guess Klingon Viagra must be super potent, maybe. But I thought it was the woman that...
Yeah, no, I think it's the woman, and presumably, yeah, probably not best not to dwell there. But anyway.
I suppose, isn't asphyxiation supposed to give you an erection?
When I said best not to dwell there.
Sorry. He says, Harry Mudd was bearable. I got the feeling from the promo clips he was going to be an annoyingly omniscient psychopath, and he turned out to be a cowardly doofus. Well, fair enough. I don't really like the broadly partial TOS Harry Mudd, so he could have been worse.
Mm-hmm.
The only other thing of note is the F-bomb. I feel like I'm turning into my dad, but was it really necessary?
Yeah, quite.
This is a more adult version of Trek than we've seen previously, and I don't think my kids will be watching it, but I know some folks will, yourself included, and it's a shame, really.
Yeah.
Oh, well, on the whole, I enjoyed the heck out of this one again, even though it's clearly not happening in the 2260s. Thank you!
Thank you, sir. And we've heard from Purry.
Hello, Orgs. Parry here with feedback for Discovery Episode 5. Feedback on time because I'm away, hence echoey sound, no funky tunes, etc. So again, one I quite enjoyed. I thought it resolved a bit quickly, but I suppose, after kind of complaining about decompressed storytelling, having an episode that kind of wraps up fairly easily is quite good. So again, we're kind of finding out more and more. So we find out a bit more about Captain Lorca, that he's got a weird eye condition that involves him jabbing himself in the eyes. I have enough trouble with eye drops. I don't think I could cope with an eye pokey thing. Overall, I think I'm obviously the space beastie thing. I can't remember his name now. I would call it Targoid, but it's not that. Its story sort of wrapped up to an extent. Obviously, I'm sure we haven't seen the last of it. We'll get swarms of them. But I did like the way that it's making the drive hard to replicate. And indeed the use of the genetic modification rules of why they can't, or at least why they're reluctant to just modify a human. Also, I'm sure we're going to see some weird results from that. No one in Star Trek injects himself with a random chemical and doesn't turn out a bit crazy. So, other things, things I liked the fact that, I really wish I'd been learning names. We saw more of the crew, which I liked. We saw a robot. Sadly, the names still aren't sticking. It's not just that I'm bad with the names. It's just we're not seeing enough. We're generally seeing Saru, Burnham, Lorca, and the engineer bloke. But we've got the Doctor in now as well, and we saw a bit more of the bridge crew, which I liked. I liked seeing this. I really wish we got more of their characters, because while it's nice having a tight focus on this sort of main core, there are other interesting looking people. Who is Robot Head Woman? Things like that. She looks like a robot head woman. I'm interested. But there is also, this is kind of a Star Trek first here, because we have the first F-bombs dropped in Star Trek. And it feels a wee bit wrong. I can just about cope with the shits. Not literally, that sounds awful. Although I have a very robust bowel. But it's also, I can almost cope with that, but, when Tilly, of all people, I really didn't expect it to be her to be dropping the first F-bombs. And it seems a bit weird. Fortunately, it wasn't. It wasn't like Tarantino-esque stuff, so it didn't seem like, look at us, we're using sweary words because we're allowed to, it's a mature rating and we're going to use it, so allow me to swear while stabbing someone in the throat and having, glorious sex, like Game of Thrones does. But it's still a bit weird in my Star Trek. So not quite entirely sure how I feel about that. On the other hand, we have seen two things that we've never seen in Star Trek before. One is toothbrushes of the future, which maybe I'm the only person who gets excited about. And the second one, Starfleet jammies. Not just that, they've got matching Starfleet jammies. The engineer, the Doctor, it's glorious and adorable. And I want a pair. I want a pair of Starfleet jammies. I want Starfleet jammies more than probably is healthy. So yeah, there's stuff to unpack in this. We also got the back history of Lorca, what his previous command was, so this isn't his first ship. How it applies is still a bit unclear, how this is informing his character, but no doubt we will see more of this. I also wonder if it means that we're going to have a sort of holding back in the spore drive for the next few episodes, which I kind of hope that the whole show isn't just about mushroom flying. But we will see. But overall, as I say, I'm perfectly happy with this so far. It's not quite, aside from excess swearing and perhaps making me desire Starfleet issue pyjamas. So all it remains for me to say is do keep up the good work, and I'll hopefully feed back on the next couple of episodes of Deep Space Nine and the next episode of Discovery. So until then, bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes, now, I love that crew member. She's called Arium, apparently. Having just gone on Memory Alpha to find out. There is some confusion as to what she might be, including, in the show itself, in terms of the... She started out thinking she was a synthetic human hybrid, and apparently the show behind-the-scenes thing described her as being an alien hybrid. So, don't know. Bizarre, but I love that little sound effect you get whenever she's on the screen. So
Is it a bit Andromeda? Andromeda had the sort of computer person.
No, she was more an avatar for the ship. This isn't that.
Okay.
No.
Okay. You're going to make Purry very jealous, aren't you?
I've got Starfleet jammies, yes, but mine are TNG style. So.
Yeah.
And yes, we too get excited about future toothbrushes, definitely.
Bizarre. But yeah, I mean... Well, we don't agree, do we?
No.
No.
Not yet.
No. I liked it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And we've heard from the Llama God.
Llama God Slag, Scotty, Check Jake, Shit Jake. Mud. Glorious mud. There's nothing quite like it for boiling the blood. Or something like that, anyway. I'm hoping that this episode hasn't boiled both of your bloods too much, so that we actually get a podcast. Otherwise, I'm kind of wasting my time just talking to my computer in my house all on my own. Like, that would make it different to any other evening. Oh well. But yes, this was a great episode. I love this. Because for the first time in the series, perhaps, this seems like it's actually going to be actual proper Star Trek. I mean, to start with, we've got all the callbacks to other Star Treks. I mean, there's a sort of glorious stream of them. Well, I say glorious. I mean, it started off a bit shakily when we had Michael Burnham revealing her future role as the Traveller. So, yeah, the first in a line of Wesley Crushers. So that wasn't looking so good. But okay, it turned out to be just a dream, so that was good. And then we get to see a space dock, and it's a bit of a pointy space dock, but it at least looks to be in keeping with the original Trek space docks, not like the crazy snow globe from Star Trek Beyond, which admittedly I loved, but, just because it was so crazy. But I can see it's not really appropriate to this era of Star Trek. And then, of course, the most Trek thing that could possibly happened. Captain Lorca went to a conference, and yep, we know what's going to happen. Well, he clearly didn't, because, this is a prequel. But, yep, the Klingons took him. That was a bit of a surprise. I was kind of expecting, I don't know he's going to be in it, that Mr. Mudd was going to be the one piloting the vessel for some reason, but no, he's just a prisoner. Since I've mentioned him already, I'm going to say he wasn't too much of a disappointment. You could potentially argue that he could have been any character, really, and the fact that it was Mudd probably makes little difference, at this stage anyway. At the very least, having that sort of character really fit the story at that point, and he didn't overplay the comedy, he wasn't out of character or out of the tone of the story, so yeah, no, I quite like his inclusion. There's also more TNG-related trivia. On the map of Klingon space, as they mentions the Empire system, which, of course, everyone will remember from Redemption, so yeah. And of course the most glorious thing that there was when Saru asked to call up the list of decorated captains. So yep, we get to see Archer. Okay, never mind, don't care about Archer. But yeah, we get to see the names Robert April and Christopher Pike on there. And Matthew Decker, that's also quite cool. But yeah, I'm recording this far too quickly after the shows, simply because you recorded far too quickly last week, so I haven't had a chance to even get to Memory Alpha to see if this is the first canon mention of Robert April, but that was a great thing to see. So obviously they're both kicking around somewhere. So yeah, no, that was a really nice callback. Of course, there were a couple of little jarring moments in this episode. There was the slightly psychopathic computer, which was suggesting that Saru killed Michael Burnham, so that was interesting, but, it's Lorca's ship, so I guess that's not unexpected. And we had fucking use of the fucking F-word, which is, kind of what had been threatened, but with everything else adult they were able to get away with, and, yeah, I'm okay with it, really. It's in a time of war, it's a bit more human, and it fit the moment, so I'm okay with it, as long as they don't overdo it. And the whole thing turning into an episode of The Thick of It on the bridge, I'm kind of okay with it. As to the story itself, yeah, yeah, no, it was a great little adventure. And again, what made it more Star Trek, I thought, apart from obviously the kidnapping, was the fact that we actually had an ethical dilemma here, as had been suggested from the previous week's episode, where they had to decide whether or not to keep using the tardigrade. And I was so sad when I thought it had died, but no, it just kind of shriveled up. Like, yeah, that was not good. So it was really nice to see them bringing that element back into things and sort of course correcting where a crew in times of war might have gone wrong and deviated from Starfleet. Saru's order to Michael at the end of the episode to make the tardigrade better, that was a particularly beautiful moment. I love that. And then we get to see a water bear go into hyperspace. So yeah, that's something that no man has ever seen before. So yep, they're delivering on that premise right there. But it does, of course, remain to be seen what Lorca's going to make of that when he is recovered. So yeah. But yeah, no, in all, this was a good episode. A nice mix of tension, action, science, even if it's a bit weird science, and moralistic quandaries, which really is what Star Trek's all about. So yeah, no, I really, really enjoyed this episode. And I'm hoping that you two did as well. I know that the Mushroom Drive is probably taking things a bit far for you, but yeah, I'm hoping that you're seeing a bit more of this. Not just because I want to hear my own voice played back on the MP3s, but because I always enjoy your podcast anyway. With that nicely horror movie cliffhanger ending, yeah, I'm really looking forward to next week's episode. Because it does somewhat alleviate the fears that they might be dragging out the Harry Mudd story a bit too long, leading us to him taking revenge, maybe the Wrath of Mudd. I'll leave you as you made me leave my Stella, marooned forever on a Klingon ship, trapped in a cell, Mudd! Mudd! Treacherous Mudd! Or maybe not. There was the thing I'm particularly constipated now. I better go. Glory to you and your cast!
Okay. The new Klingons are apparently Bane. That explains a lot, I guess.
Yeah, and the Wrath of Mudd.
Yes, why couldn't it have been Romulans? Aboo!
Yes.
But he wasn't technically at a conference, of course, so it doesn't quite work.
Yeah, but
this is a new series, see, reboot. They can break the rules. It doesn't have to be Romulans capturing people from conferences every week.
But now, what was the thing we were supposed to have spotted that I didn't know what it was?
What's that?
The Muslim...
The reference to the Mempar system, maybe?
That would be.
Yes. So yes, it was. I think it was only a throwaway line in Redemption. So well done for spotting that.
Yeah, and in terms of, is this a predecessor of the Traveller? I mean, it was one of the few things that might explain the fact that he's grey like a mushroom.
No, she's talking about Michael Burnham, but never mind. That was just a throwaway joke.
No, but the Traveller travelling through space and time and space and that.
No. She's joking about the fact that Michael appears to be, being like the Traveller because she's in the. Don't worry, it was a joke.
Okay, fine. But he did look like a mushroom, though. Now I think of it.
Maybe that's why I don't like it, because I don't like mushrooms.
That's it.
There you are. This is my spores and mushrooms, my pet peeves. Yeah. Well, what else? What'll be next week that'll really cheese me off?
Plum tomatoes.
Plum tomatoes.
It'll be the plum tomato
drive. Oh, don't. Because of wet. Oh, the nightmares. You put your fork in them and they're just deflated like a balloon. Oh. Yeah, thank you for that. I'll have nightmares now.
Sorry.
So there we are. Yeah, one person's been. Sounds like there's been won over. In terms of Anne-Marie, anyway. I've yet to be won over, I think it's fair to say. But there is, in every episode, there's at least one moment that makes me think, oh yeah, that's good, that's Trek. And in this one, definitely was that scene between the engineer and his partner. It's like, oh, and actually felt it's not that's Trek. That's what Trek should have been doing up till now.
A long time ago. Yes.
So you score over the rest of Trek on that. Well done. So there we go. I think, yes, we're recording on Friday, aren't we? The next 2 episodes of Deep Space Nine. The first of which Anne-Marie thought she knew, but it turned out she was thinking of a completely different episode.
Oh, wow.
So that's rather splendid. There we go. We'll catch you for that. Take care. Cheerio, bye.
Bye.
Freak out. You freak. Say she. Freak out. Freak out. You freak. Say she. Freak out.
The bOrgCast is brought to you by the lovely people at geekplanetonline.com.
All music referenced is for illustrative purposes only, and no copyright infringement is intended.
To contact us, you can use the forums at geekplanetonline.com.
Visit our Tumblr site at bOrgCast.tumblr.com.
Send email messages or MP3s to bOrgCast at geekplanetonline.com.
Or you can contact us via Twitter on rev_org or bOrgCastAmmo. Hashtag bOrgCast.
All that pressure got you down. Has your head spinning all around. Feel the rhythm, chant the rhyme. Come on along and have a real good time. Like the days of stopping as a boy. Now we're free.
Shut it down!